Everyone is watching this conflict in the Middle East and asking the question, what's going to happen next? And from a political science perspective, a more useful question to ask is how conflicts like this tend to develop. And so, what's the consistent development you see in a conflict of this nature? Now, there's a few concepts that help make sense of what we're seeing in the Middle East. So, let's start with escalation. If we look at the interaction between Israel and Iran, there are direct actions followed by responses, followed by broader responses that begin to involve other areas within the region. And at the same time, activity is not limited to those two states. And so Hezbollah is active in southern Lebanon. The Houthis have targeted shipping in the Red Sea. So the conflict is not contained to a single geographic space, but it's distributed across the region. And that's important to understand because it now means decisions are being made in multiple places, not just by national governments. Next, it's important to look at deterrence. And so the United States has positioned naval assets in the region, including carrier groups, and that's a signal. That's a signal to the rest of the region. The purpose is not necessarily immediate action. It's to influence decision making by raising the perceived cost of further escalation. And so, what is the perceived cost to the nations of that region? But deterrence depends on interpretation. So, how do those actors interpret those actions? And if different actors read that signal differently, it can either stabilize or further complicate the situation. Third, political scientists would look at proxy dynamics. And so, Iran's influence is not limited to its own military. It extends through aligned groups across the region. We see Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen. That creates a situation where actors by non-state or semi-state actors can affect the broader conflict even if they're not directly controlled in real time. And that adds a significant layer of complexity because now escalation can occur without a single central decision maker. And then there's miscalculation. So large-scale conflicts often expand not because there was a plan to escalate, but because actions and responses interact in ways that weren't fully anticipated. So a response is stronger than expected, maybe a signal is misread, some event creates pressure to respond further. And then if we zoom out from a 30,000 level foot view, the United States is also engaged in supporting Ukraine in its war with Russia. And so those are assets that are being depleted in another area. So now you have overlapping theaters competing for attention, competing for resources, and competing for a strategic focus from the people in charge, from the ones making decisions. So when you look at this situation, it's less useful to think of it as a single conflict. It's more accurate to see it as a system of interactions across actors, regions, and incentives that are evolving in real time. So how do these normally develop? You need to look at it from a holistic view.